Hey everybody, time for another breadcrumbs video. We are in the book of Joshua and we're in chapters 7, 8, and 9. And today's breadcrumb is called The Problem of Presumption. And so we really want to have two stories, one story in chapter 7, one story in chapter 9 that are negative stories, and sandwiched in between a good story in chapter 8. Chapter 7 tells a story of Achan. The people of Israel were supposed to take all the plunder from Jericho and give it to the Lord, as it was holy. Achan keeps some from himself. He covets some of these nicer things that was in Jericho. He buries it under his tent. But the issue is that Israel kind of, after Jericho, is like, everything's going great. We're just going to roll on up to Ai and take that over. And they go and they lose a battle. And Joshua kind of hits the deck and is like, Lord, I thought you were with us. What's going on? And the Lord said, you didn't bother to talk to me. There's sin in the camp. And of course, we know the story. Achan's sin gets found out. And they deal with the problem. And then they go and handle Ai in the next chapter. But the issue is that after a big success, sometimes we can just forget that we live by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, and that we need to stop and inquire of the Lord before we take that next step. And so the Israelites learned a very painful lesson here, that had they just taken a moment and talked to the Lord before they presumed to go and take Ai, maybe the Lord would have, well, not maybe, he would have told them about the sin in the camp, and they could have dealt with that problem and saved thousands of lives that were lost. The other negative story is in chapter 9, and well, let me talk to you about chapter 8 first. So they end up defeating Ai, they take it over, everything's going really well, and Joshua ends up reading the book of the law. He reads every commandment that Moses has ever recorded to the people of Israel, and there's another triumph, a high point for the people of Israel, and they've kind of rallied. They're going to do what the Lord has commanded them to do. They've come back to the commandments, and they've rededicated themselves. And then we hit chapter 9, which we take another step back, because this group of people called the Gibeonites come to Israel, and they pretend to be a nation from far, far away, and they've got worn out wine sacks and water jugs and moldy bread, and they pitch this sob story that they're from a whole other, distant land. They've heard, they come and they make peace. And Israel, again, in presumption, listens to their story, believes them, and takes an oath of non-aggression towards them. And it turns out they were right in the neighborhood. And so they did not inquire of the Lord. And so you have these two stories, chapter 7 and chapter 9, that I think are instructive to us as disciples, as people of God, to just slow our roll and talk to the Lord about big decisions. And it's about, we talked on Monday night, ultimately discipleship is about the surrender of not my will be done, but yours, Lord, and taking the time to ask him about big decisions in particular, but small decisions as well. We need to have a submitted, surrendered spirit and will to the Lord's desire and plan. And so even in the book of James in the New Testament, the apostle says, don't say, next year we're going to do this or that or the other thing. Say, if the Lord wills it, we'll do this or do that. Because of this problem of presumption, that if we don't bother to inquire of the Lord, we can move ahead and create some dangerous obstacles for ourselves or others in our lives. And so here's two painful stories in our breadcrumbs today about dealing with presumption. So God bless you guys. We'll look forward to more to come as we continue our journey through the scriptures.